Hope you're doing all right. So, we've all had emotional trading problems. I've definitely had some. And throughout my trading career, I've felt self-doubt. I've asked myself, can I make it? Can I not make it? Can I, whatever emotional problem I had. I've had doubt in trades, so I looked at trades dead in the eye that I should have taken, but I've doubted myself, I've doubted my system, I've doubted my trade, and I said, you know what, maybe I shouldn't take that trade, and I missed out on a profitable trade because of my emotional state. I had the fear of missing out. I've seen a trade run, basically the charts run in a certain direction, and I felt afraid of missing out on certain movements, so I've jumped in without a system, just improvising basically, just so I don't miss out on some money. I've revenge traded, definitely. When you lose a trade, you look at that trade and you're like, you know what, the market took my money, now it's time to make it back, and it's time to revenge and all that, and you take unnecessary trades that are not systematic. Now, usually, for all these problems, I've had mental solutions, which means I've had to work on myself, I've had to change my perspective. So the usual advice that I give you, like you have to change your perspective, you have to change yourself, you have to change the way you see something in order to feel something else, so you don't act out on these emotions basically. But now the second solution that I found, which was way easier than changing myself, are physical systematic solutions. There is a physical solution that would stop me from revenge trading. There is a systematic physical solution that would stop me from overtrading. So today, in this video, we are going to discuss multiple emotions and their physical systematic solutions, where you don't have to battle with yourself, where you don't have to change the way that you think basically, or change your perspective, or meditate, or like read books, whatever, I don't know. So you don't have to do all that. There's systematic solutions for a few of those problems that we will be discussing today. Let's get right into it. How do you stop overtrading? Now, this is you right here, okay? If I take you, those are environments below. If I take you and I put you in any of those environments, there is a certain probability that is going to increase. Let's discuss this. If you come to me right now and you tell me, Roy, I want to skip lunch. And I say, okay, you skip lunch, you don't need to eat, but I need to go to the restaurant to eat. And therefore, let's go to the restaurant. You don't eat, I'll eat, no problem, you can skip lunch. So we both go to the restaurant. The moment you sit inside the restaurant, the probability of you eating will increase. The probability of you changing your mind and actually eating will increase. You will see all this food roaming around. You will see the waiters. You will watch me eat. You'll get hungry. And the more you sit in the restaurant, the hungrier you get, the more the probability of you changing your mind and actually eating, even though you have decided previously that you don't want to eat. And therefore, environments are responsible for increasing the probability of us doing something specific. If I take you to the club, even if you don't want to drink alcohol tonight, let's say, and you see everyone partying and drinking, you'll be like, maybe one drink. So if you're at home and you don't want to drink alcohol, it's very easy to not drink because you're at home. If you're at the gym and you don't want to eat, it's very easy not to eat. You're at the gym. So certain environments will favor certain probabilities over the other, regardless of what your personality is. You can be a pussy that the moment you see alcohol, you drink, even though you have decided that you don't want to drink. So if you just take yourself, even as a pussy, you take yourself from the club and you put yourself in the gym, then the probability of you drinking in the gym almost is non-existent. And therefore, by changing environments, you change probabilities and you change actions. Now, when it comes to overtrading, okay, let's change the environments here. This is the charts, okay? And we're going to speak about something else, which is mental environments here. One of the ways to stop overtrading is to simply move myself from a chart environment. I'm in front of the charts. I don't want to overtrade. I don't want to trade anymore. I've placed the number of trades that I should place today, but I keep sitting in front of the charts. The more I sit, the more I see those trades, those candlesticks roaming around, the more I'm watching other people trade, the higher the probability. This increases the probability of me trading and putting in additional trades. And therefore, even as a pussy, and I don't want to work on my personality, and for me, if I see the charts, I will trade. So what I'll do, even with this personality, if I just take myself and put myself in any other environment, then the probability of me overtrading decreases. And then there is something called mental environments as well. So if I take myself right here, this is business. I can stay in front of my desk. Okay, this is me. I'm in front of my desk. I'm sitting on the charts right here. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sitting in front of the charts right here, and I'm watching the charts all the time. And the probability of overtrading is, of course, increasing because I am in front of the charts. Now, what I can do is I can mentally switch to something else. If I switch to business right here, I can say, okay, I'm done with the charts. I want to work on this business, any business that I'm working on right now. If just I switch my desktop, the thing that I'm looking at right now, and I switch to business and I'm taking care of something else, the probability of me overtrading decreases tremendously because I am no longer looking at the charts. I am right now looking at something else, and this is called a mental environment. I just changed my environment mentally. That decreases the probability of me overtrading by almost 90%, let's say. So, step number 1 right here, choose a specific time to trade, exact time. So I want to trade from 9 a.m., let's say, until 10 a.m. London time. Specific time to trade. Step 2, book meetings or anything important like a gym meeting. It could be a business meeting. You need to do something else, or you can set a deadline for a certain project that you need to finish after you finish this 1 hour in trading. Or you could tell a friend that let's go to a restaurant, or let's do a family event, or all that. Book meetings or anything after your trading, anything important that will force you to switch environments either physically or mentally. And if you can switch environments, if you force yourself to switch environments, then the probability of you continuing to overtrade will just diminish tremendously. So this is system number 1. Choose a specific time to trade. This is what I do. I don't fight with myself. I don't fight the urge to overtrade. I don't fight the urge like, oh, I want to trade, but I can't right now because I will be overtrading. Like, oh, I took my trades for the day and I need to fight and not take trades. I don't feel like that. I don't have these battles. I just set a specific time to trade, and immediately after those times, I have something to do. Whether it's the gym, whether it's a business meeting, whether it's a call that I have to take, whether it's a physical meeting that I have to go to, whatever it is, there is something to do immediately after I finish trading, and that forces me to switch environments, which lowers the amount of battles that I have to take. This is the way that you need to think about it. How do you stop doubting trades? Now, when you doubt trades, this is what happens. You look at a trade that you should take, but then you start asking yourself unnecessary questions. Like, oh, should I take this trade? Yesterday I lost, and creating unnecessary scenarios. Yesterday I lost, and start thinking a lot. Yesterday I lost, and because I lost, maybe today is not a good day to take a trade. Maybe this is the same trade as the one that I took yesterday. I'm in a 6 trades losing streak. Maybe I'll lose more. And then this trade that you should take now becomes a trade that you shouldn't take in your mind, so you don't take it. So doubting a trade is either looking at a trade that you should take and then not taking it, or it's looking at a trade that you shouldn't take and then asking yourself questions as well. I won my last 2 trades, maybe I should take this one. Yes, my system tells me not to take it, but maybe if I take it, I'll win. There's a news in 1 hour, but maybe even with those news, I'll still win because there is a probability I end up winning. And then you start thinking too much, and then that trade that you shouldn't take turns into a trade that you should take in your mind, and therefore you mistake it, you misperceive it, and you end up taking it. And therefore, I have 2 solutions for this. The first solution is you need to understand that the more thinking you do, the less the profitability you have. The more thinking right here, you saw the trade, okay? Right there is the initial point. You saw the trade. Then you started thinking, that trade, you shouldn't take it. You know you shouldn't take it, but you started thinking and you were like, oh, maybe I should take it. There is a news, but maybe the news go in my favor. Maybe I should take it. I won my last two trades, so maybe this will be an additional win. If I don't take it, then I will have no trades today and I will be lazy and it's like I have done nothing today. And therefore, if I trade, then I will feel useful because I'm in a trade and I could manage it throughout the day and I could feel productive. The more you're thinking about it and the more you're thinking about the situation, the lower your profitability is. And therefore, when it comes to trading, try to always rely on your initial thought. If you see a trade and you don't like it and you see that trade, you shouldn't take it because the charts are clearly telling you, according to your system, that you shouldn't take it. Rely on that initial thought that you had. Do not think about it too much to the point where you ruin it. The more thinking you do, the more you are ruining it. The more thinking you do, the less the profitability. So this is solution number one, and this could be a mental plus physical and systematic solution, to always rely on the initial thought that you have. So the system here is that the moment you have an idea, be aware that if you think about it too much, you will lower your profitability. So try to rely on that initial thought. This is the action that you should take. Now, the second action that you should take is the following. You are doubting your trades, and therefore I rely on score-based trading. So I see a trade right here, and then what I do is I highlight the reasons to avoid taking that trade. Logically, objectively. So I look at a trade and I'm like, okay, there's liquidity. I take my time, actually. I'm in front of the charts and I will take my time to write it down on my book right here. I will sit there and I'll be like, liquidity above, opposite bias, for example, weak break. And I will start highlighting reasons that I viewed before in my journal as to why I shouldn't take that trade. And I start highlighting those reasons. And therefore, as I highlight those reasons, I then calculate a score. That score is calculated in the following manner. I will start with 10. 10 out of 10 is a perfect trade that I need to take. Now, 10 minus the reasons that I should take, minus 3 in that case, is 7. And therefore, what I just did is I just determined a score for that trade. And then I will have a certain threshold of trades that I will take. For example, let's say a trade that is above 6 is an acceptable trade, and a trade that is below 6 is an unacceptable trade. So when I look at a trade that I should take, I will calculate its score, and if the score is 7, it means I'm right. I should take that trade. I don't need to think much. I don't need to evaluate much. I don't need to push myself into a battle with that trade to decide emotionally whether I feel like taking it or not. I don't need to work on myself. What I need to do is I need to determine a score for that trade objectively and logically, and that number right here, I will rely on numbers, on numerology, not on emotions. That score right here will tell me your feeling is right or your feeling is wrong, and you shouldn't rely on it. The number will decide, not me. Whatever that number is, I will rely on it, not based on what I think. And therefore, it's like delegating your decision to something else, to someone else. You are no longer responsible for that trade. You are no longer responsible for taking that trade, I mean. Someone else is responsible, which is this score-based trading. Whatever the score is, I delegated my task to score-based trading, and it will decide whether I should take it or not. Don't think about it. Don't sit there and be like, oh, maybe I should take it, maybe I shouldn't take it. I delegated my task. I felt undecisive. I felt that I don't know what I should do, and therefore what I did is I delegated my decision to someone else, and that someone else is a score-based trading. Score-based trading will determine a number for me, and based on the threshold that I previously set, which could be 6, could be 7, based on your strategy, based on the threshold that you set, the number decides whether you take a trade or not. Not your opinion about it, not your emotions about it, not all that. When you move towards score-based trading, it's numerology that determines. You delegated your decision-making mechanism to numerology, basically. Here's another system to eliminate emotions when trading. So I dissect my trading day like that. Step 1, I look for executions before buys. Now the reason why I do that is, let's say I looked for buys first. And let's say I'm analyzing Bitcoin right now, and I see that there is a possibility that Bitcoin is going to melt down, okay, on a higher time frame. I go to a lower time frame and I don't find an entry. Because I already have a bias that Bitcoin might go down, I start finding myself more inclined to ignore my system and just enter a trade because I believe wholeheartedly that Bitcoin is going to go down. And therefore, I started doing executions before bias because then I will only analyze bias for instruments that I know for sure if a bias is found, I have a trade to take. So that's step one, step number one. Step two, I do the bias, obviously. Step three, here's the thing. This is a very important point, very important step. I do a final quality assessment round. So I look at the trades that I found. Right now, I found executions and I found biases. And let's say I found 3 bullish entries and 3 bullish biases. Okay, I can take those entries now. But before entering those trades, I do a final quality assessment round. Are those trades high quality? What is the quality of those trades? Is there any reasons to avoid taking those trades? I do a final quality assessment, and then whatever the result of that final quality assessment round is, I take that trade. This stops me from seeing an entry and a bias and immediately jumping into a trade. By saying there is one more step, which is the final quality assessment round, this helps me avoid taking low quality trades and just jumping into trades because there is an entry on the chart and everything is systematic. So I don't do that. I rely on this final quality assessment round. And guys, by dissecting my trading day like that, what ends up happening, if I see an execution, and let's say there is a huge bullish momentum and I see an entry, bullish entry right now and the market is pushing in that direction, I don't immediately FOMO into a trade. I don't FOMO because I understand that there is step 2 and step 3 that I need to do before I'm allowed to trade. And therefore, by dissecting my day like that, what ends up happening is I don't emotionally react because I understand that there is step 1, step 2, step 3 before I can take a trade. When you don't define it, when you go ahead and you say, I want to trade, that's it. I have a system and I want to trade. Those emotions, you are susceptible to them because you don't know what you see a trade and it's pushing in your direction, you get emotionally, you FOMO into it, let's say, without doing any quality assessment because you haven't defined it previously. And your emotions right now are telling you to take that trade, to FOMO into that trade. And because you don't have a systematic process, then the only thing you could listen to is your emotions at the moment. Because it's the only thing shouting at you. But when you have a systematic process, then regardless of how you feel here, regardless, you see an execution and the market, let's say, is pushing in that direction, but you haven't checked the bias or the quality assessment, that happens. Your emotions are shouting at you to take that trade, but your systematic process right here is also shouting at you from the other side and telling you, hey, there's still step 2, step 3 that you need to do. You trade systematically, there's steps. So by systemizing your day and defining exactly what you're going to do when you approach the charts and not just say, let's say, I want to trade. No, exactly. What is I want to trade? I just want to look for trades. What is exactly I want to trade? I look for executions first, for example, then bias. Then I do my final quality assessment round. And then after all those 3 steps are done, I trade. Now, if meanwhile, when I'm doing these steps right here, let's say a trade runs, hits the TP, whatever, I'm trading for 30 minutes, it's highly unlikely. But let's say that ends up happening because there's some news or some bullish momentum, whatever, that happens to a trade and it ends. If that happens as I'm checking these steps and I miss out on that trade, I don't give a fuck. What I care about is being proud of myself for following everything systematically. This is the type of emotion that I'm chasing. Not the, oh, trade, I'm not being pushed around by the markets. Like, oh, this is running in my direction. Okay, let's go take it. Let's go take this. I'm not being pushed around by the markets. I decide how systematically I want to trade and I deal with everything systematically. I don't get pushed around, so don't get pushed around. How to stop revenge trading? Now bear with me here. If you have a fight with your partner or your wife, it is generally advisable to walk away from that partner, walk away from your wife, and then come back later in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and talk about it. Now, this is advisable by almost every psychologist, everyone who tries to solve problems. And why is it advisable? Why can't we solve the problem now? Why do we have to solve it? Why can't we only solve it in 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Why can't we just jump into it and solve it right now? It's because of the following right here. Now, every event that happens in your life, if you choose to react to it, anytime you choose to react to it, you choose to reply. In that case, it's the fight with your wife. You just fought with your wife, okay? And right here is you choose to react to it, you choose to reply. There's two types of processing. There is the emotional processing and there is the intellectual processing. And as you can see, your emotional processing will have a certain reaction and your intellectual processing will have a second reaction. Now, when you have the fight, when the event happens, as soon as the event happens, emotional processing takes priority. So the sooner the event, the higher probability that the way that you'll deal with it is through emotional processing. Emotional processing takes priority. It is at the surface, it takes priority when replying to events that happened soon enough, okay? And the more time you give something, the higher the probability, the more likely that intellectual processing will float to the surface and will become the priority, the thing that you'd use to react to the situation. So time, the use of time, what we're doing in that time is we're allowing intellectual processing to come float to the top of our reaction mechanism and take priority as opposed to emotional processing. This is what we are waiting for. And therefore, when you lose a trade, this is the important topic here. When you lose a trade, how do you deal with it? There's a lot of people, they lose a trade and they're like, why did I lose this trade? Immediately as it hits their stop loss. Oh, I didn't expect to lose. Why did I lose this trade? I want to figure it out now. And therefore, the processing event is triggered way too soon. You just lost that trade. What float to the surface right now? What is at the surface? It's emotional processing. The way you will react to that is the majority of the times, or more likely, let's say, it's through revenge trading. Okay, emotional processing is right now at the top because the event just happened. So emotional processing takes priority. And therefore, if you choose to react today, then you choose emotional processing, which is reaction one, which would be revenge trading in that case. Now, if you give it some time, if you decide, you know what, I'm going to analyze this loss on Saturday, not right now. I'm going to act like nothing happened right now, and on Saturday, I'm going to come back and analyze that loss. The more time you give it, you just said, I'm going to analyze that loss on the weekend. You gave it time. You took that loss on Tuesday. You gave it time. And the more time you give it, what just happened? Intellectual processing floated to the top, and right now it's going to take priority. So when analyzing that trade on Saturday, you're going to have reaction two, which is you're going to journal it, you are going to learn from it, you are going to become a better trader because you're going to learn from it. So you're going to do all that as opposed to revenge trade. Why? Because you allowed intellectual processing to float to the surface. So one way to stop revenge trading, there's a lot of ways, but this is one of them. One way to stop revenge trading is to allow intellectual processing to take on priority and eliminate emotional processing. So it's not about, I want to react now, but I want to react intellectually. I won't force myself to fight this battle. I am emotional because I lost, let's say. Let's not react now. How do I stick to my trading system? What if I told you that I don't stick to my trading system? What if I told you that I have fun trading? What if I told you that I do have a system, but I improvise a lot of the times? And that's okay. The reason why it's okay, it's because I have divided my trading behaviors into two behaviors. We have today the non-sticking behavior. So when you don't stick to your system, when you improvise, when you revenge trade, when you FOMO into trades, when you basically are having fun with the account. And then we have our sticking behaviors, which is we see a trade and it's looking good, but our rules told us not to take it, and therefore we don't take it. We stick to our system and we just stick to our rules. Now, the only difference between me and you is that you execute your non-sticking behavior and your sticking behavior on your trading account. And therefore that leads to your trading account being a mix of fun and serious trades, or being a mix between non-sticking behavior trades and sticking behavior trades. And therefore what I do is I understand that I have certain impulsive behavior, and therefore what I do is throughout my non-sticking behavior right here, when I see a trade that I shouldn't take, but I do believe in my whole heart that this will work out, and I'm confident about it, even though my system tells me not to take it, this is a non-sticking behavior. I'm not sticking to my system. I'm sticking to what I think about this trade, to what I believe will happen to this trade regardless of my trading system. So this is a non-sticking behavior, and therefore I execute my non-sticking behavior on my non-sticking account and my sticking behavior on my sticking account, which is my main account. So this is my main account right here. This takes the serious sticking trades, and this is my fun account right there, and this takes the non-sticking trades basically. So if I want to have some fun, if I lose a trade and I feel the need to, okay, you know what, I want to enter one more trade, I do believe that the next trade might work out, even though my system tells me to only take 3 trades for the day. So what I'll do is I'll go to my fun account and I'll execute it, and therefore I'll accumulate serious data right here on my sticking account, and I'll accumulate fun data right here to see how I trade intuitively on my non-sticking account. And therefore, if you accept your behavior, but you just change where you execute it, that's it, on what account you execute it, then you solve the problem without having to change yourself. You just dissect your behavior into 2, and each behavior executed somewhere else. Even with prop firms, for example, you will have a main prop firm account and you will have a fun prop firm account, and therefore this way you can still do whatever it is that you want to do on a small, let's say, fun account and on a big main account. This is one of the solutions as well. Now, unfortunately, guys, I have a mentorship meeting right now, a student meeting right now, and therefore I have to go to that meeting, and therefore I will leave you here with those systems that I just announced for you, those 5 systems, I believe, and therefore I have some ideas, still have some ideas, however, I'll just mention them in the next episode. So I'll see you guys in the next one.